It's a total scheme. One of the first red flags to me was Mikhail Gorbachev, who was the ruthless, murdering communist dictator, the last one of the Soviet Union. When he stepped down from that, he moved to San Francisco and started an environmental group, Green Cross International. So I'm like, whoa.
No way.
Yeah, they all jumped in.
Wait.
Yeah.
Mikhail Gorbachev moved to the United States.
Yes.
Personally.
Yes.
And started a climate
Green
program.
Cross International, a
Holy
big, huge
shit.
nonprofit to push that, right when he stepped down from the Soviet Union. So I flew up to Vancouver, British Columbia to interview Dr. Patrick Moore. And if you don't know that name, he's the one that founded Greenpeace. So he cares about the environment. He was out there stopping the Russians from, killing the whales and all that stuff. He cared about things. And I went up there and I said, Dr. Moore, why did you leave Greenpeace in the 80s? And he said, and he's, he's up there, he's not an American or anything. He said, because the communists came in and took it over. All their goal is to destroy capitalism worldwide, because it was a vehicle to implement communism. So this is a guy up there that's not into this communism or Americanism or anything.
He was generally into the environment.
Just like whales.
And he still is. Yeah. No, and he cared, but I saw he was a real environmentalist, and he's still doing things up in Canada, but common sense things.
Yeah.
Like teaching Canada to manage their forest.
Right.
He goes, it's the greatest single resource we have. We should be thinning the forest and cutting the dead trees and planting new to keep them healthy and strong. So he was into real things. But so that was another key when I talked to him. He said, no, they came right in and they said, all we're about is destroying capitalism. And so he had to leave his own group, Greenpeace, because it became so radical. But here's something everyone has to understand. It's so important because, again, this issue is not going away, no matter how many facts, no matter if the world starts cooling, no matter whatever happens, because you cannot step down from a movement called saving the planet to something else. You'll lose all your troops because that sounds so noble. Mm-hmm. Here's the 3 facts about it. The foundations of it are this. Number 1, the bedrock of the entire modern environmental movement is carbon dioxide is a pollutant, which if you didn't go to government schools, that is laughable. Carbon dioxide is plant food. It is fertilizer for everything that is green. Here's some facts you might not know. I studied this. Right now, the level of carbon dioxide in the world, in the air, is 400 parts per million. Well, that doesn't mean anything unless you realize, well, what's the optimum level? The optimum level of CO2 for everything that is green, if you care about what's green, is 1,600 parts per million. We're at 1/4 of the optimum level of CO2 in the atmosphere for everything that is green. That's why greenhouse growers pump in carbon dioxide into their greenhouses to double, triple, and quadruple it, because then the plant growth explodes. It doubles. Plant growth doubles. So a tomato plant inside a greenhouse will produce twice the amount of tomatoes as the exact same plant outside the greenhouse if you can quadruple CO2. That's how vital it is. An oak tree will grow to full maturity in 25 years instead of 50 years. So their underlying premise is a complete lie, but this is key. Before I go through the other 2, when you brainwash someone, which Marxists are excellent at doing, brainwashing is the process of teaching everyone the opposite of the truth. Like 1984, the book, black is white, white is black, freedom is slavery, slavery is freedom. You always teach them the opposite because it's hard to pull someone out of that. When
men are women, women are men.
Exactly. So if you tell them a little lie, they can recover from it. Mm-hmm. But when it's the opposite of the truth, so carbon dioxide, that's nonsense. We don't have near enough carbon dioxide in the world. We're at the bottom level. If it goes below 150 parts per million, everything green dies, which means everything dies because we all eat what is green or what eats what is green. So that's one thing. Then the next lie is global warming is something to be feared. The top real scientists say man has hardly any effect on any of this anyway, even CO2 production or anything. But if we could warm the world a degree or 2, it would be the greatest single blessing we could provide. Because what would happen is there'd be hundreds of millions more acres in Canada and Russia that you would be able to farm. And the lie that warmth is not the friend of life is crazy. If you ever go down to Ecuador, I was down there one summer with my sister, and you're standing on the equator where it's the hottest place on earth. And you notice something real quick. Life loves warmth. I mean, the biodiversity of plants and animals down there is unbelievable. Everything is thriving. Everything is booming. And then you go up to northern Canada or Alaska and you realize, oh my goodness, cold is the enemy of life. There's only a few species of plants that even can survive, a few animals that can survive. And so again, it's the opposite. They tell us to be scared of warming when we should be scared of cooling. Cooling is deadly, because then you don't have a long enough growing season, so you can't grow enough food. That's horrible. Warming's wonderful. And then the last thing they tell us, because I think this thing is satanic at its core.
I agree.
It is. It's
Yeah.
evil. It's
Agreed.
when you allow kids to be starving in Africa and all the things because we can't let them to have electricity because it might add some more carbon dioxide. So they can't even have refrigeration. So they can't have preserved food. So every day they got to find something to eat and all the problems that come when you're not modernized. But they tell us there's too many people on the planet. But here's the reality. If you study and talk to demographers that's the science of populations, and it's a science because you can't have more adults in the future than you have children today. So it's an exact science. It's not a theory or a hypothesis or anything. If you talk to them, they say, we're getting ready to enter an age of depopulation like the world has never seen. People have rejected the blessing of children for 50, 60 years in all the European countries. America now is finally below the 2.1 children per woman you need just to stay stagnant. We're at 1.8. And so you see, the only reason the population is still growing a little bit is because of modern medicine. You know, we're able to live longer,
Life
and so it's
expectancy,
preserving
sure.
life. But as soon as this generation of elderly die off, there's not the population to replace them. It's going to hit about 9 billion. We're at 8 billion right now. And then it's going to start dropping like a rock for hundreds of years if we don't change anything, like by having more children. And that's devastating to everybody. Adam Smith said 200 years ago, he goes, you cannot have a growing economy with a declining population.
Impossible.
It's impossible.
It's mathematically,
Everything loses its value.
Correct.
Your home's not worth anything because there's more homes than people. So no one can sell a home because there's plenty empty ones.
Well, that makes sense why they want to depopulate, because they understand it destroys the economy. And
If
it
that's
makes
the goal.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's
Well,
their
well-
number one goal? Because
Yeah.
they know there's too many people to control too. They go, we got to cut 7 billion people out of this picture because it's just too many people.